You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
0-3 in the preseason. No, 1-2. Oh, everything's fine. Let's get into it with the lead. What? Next thing you know, the Oilers are going to start the season, 2-9-1?
That'd be crazy.
Doubt it. Welcome into Oilers Nation Everyday, live from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out online at sportscloset.ca. It is Wednesday, September 25th. We are creeping closer and closer and closer to October. And once we get to October, we can start saying that we're creeping closer and closer and closer to the hockey games actually mattering. Ooh. And I'm excited for that because preseason discourse is largely annoying. If I got to deal with one more Flames fan being like, makes you think, I'm going to lose it.
Not make me think at all. I didn't know the Oilers played today until I got to the office.
Good.
I didn't know if they were on the road or at home either. I'm assuming the road because they played at home against Winnipeg already. It kind of makes sense. But yeah, not to get too deep into things, but no one's playing. Their best player tonight might be Ryan McLeod. Ryan McLeod, maybe not. Derek Ryan.
Potentially. All right.
Special night ahead.
We're going to talk about a few things.
Bless you. Tyler just sneezed.
Thanks, buddy. We're going to talk about a few things. We'll talk about the lineup tonight. Also, our boy DJ Bean makes his return to the show. He's going to join us in about 15 minutes. We'll talk about the lineup for tonight. Yes, there is a preseason game. We got a short for giant question. You have a new edition of Overrated, Underrated, or Perfectly Rated.
Perfectly rated.
That we're going to play with DJ.
Yeah, I think it'll be good with DJ.
That'll be fun. That'll be very good. We have a new What's Trending segment. We have some over-unders from Bet365, which are pretty interesting. Lots to get to today. But let's start with the two games that went down on Monday. The Oilers, it was Edmonton versus Calgary in Calgary, Calgary versus Edmonton in Edmonton. Split squad action. And the Oilers got steamrolled in both of them.
Both of them, yeah.
And I gave this many shits. For the podcast listeners, what am I doing, Liam?
Holding up a 0.
Holding up a 0. I gave 0 shits about it.
Forming a 0 with his hands.
Forming a 0 with my hands, yeah. Listen, if the Oilers would have went and won both those games 8-1, I would have sat here and been like, well, the Flames are probably not going to be good this year. The Oilers went out and lost those two games by a lot of goals. And I'm sitting here going, well, the Flames are probably not going to be good this year. My opinion of things is not going to be changed. I'm looking at individual players, and yes, there is stuff to read into because there are, a few battles. I think there is maybe more of a battle for that 13th forward spot than we initially thought. James Hamblin is making a little bit of noise here. The Oilers did a little write-up on him.
Well, then one of us thought. I've been on the James Ham train for a while.
No, I'm not saying Hamblin in particular. You were talking about him as a potential 4C.
Yeah, battling for the 4C.
Battling for the 4C spot. I'm thinking more of like, okay, who's going to be the 13th forward on this team? Like, is it going to be Hamblin? Do they keep up Lane Peterson as a 13th forward kind of thing and allow him and Derek Ryan to split? Whatever it ends up being. I mean, there is a race there, so you want to keep an eye on those guys. The race for the 6th, 7th defenseman spot, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
I think there's been some interesting developments there. I think Ty Amberson's probably starting the season in the top 6 no matter what. I don't think you trade for that guy and then send him down to Bakersfield or put him through waivers.
I think that's a lock, yeah.
He's locked. I think Troy Stetcher is a lock to be on the roster.
Yeah, I think they have 6 defensemen locked in.
And the 7th D-man spot is the one kind of question mark. Josh Brown is not getting a lot of good PR on Twitter.
No, Josh Brown has struggled. A lot of people saying he doesn't look like an NHL defenseman. I think that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't. Maybe that's why they gave him the extra couple of years, because frankly, it doesn't matter to Daryl Cates. Makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
That they can send him up and down. They know no one's going to claim him, so they don't have to worry about that.
If someone claims Josh Brown, you're probably happy.
Fine.
Which is insane because you signed him 2 months ago.
But it's interesting. It's an interesting development. Like Philip Kemp, kind of people speaking about him a bit more, probably more than in the conversation than we originally thought as well. So It's good. Like I know when we did overrated, underrated, perfectly rated last week, we said camp battles were overrated. I think they are for the most part. I think we know what this lineup is going to be. Because we're talking about guys who they'll be on the roster, but they probably won't play.
Right? Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about here. So I think the race is Dermott v. Brown for the 7th D spot.
Okay.
I think everything else is largely locked in at this point. Maybe, but again, like remember last year, Ben Gleason played so good. And we were like, hey, this guy should probably be your 7th defenseman. What's going to go on there? And then he didn't play a single NHL game.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and be like, whoa, Cam Dineen's looking good. I think the Oilers are at a point in their evolution where if someone has a great preseason, you go, good job, buddy.
Good job.
And you send them down to Bakersfield and you keep the guys who you planned on keeping. So I think the race is Dermott v. Brown. And I think the other race is, I guess, for the 13th forward spot, if they end up keeping 13 forwards on the roster, because again, there also is a chance that they do not keep 13 forwards on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance they just go 12, 7, and 2 goalies.
Yeah.
And you might be saying, well, then if a guy gets hurt, banged up, what do you end up doing there? You play 11 and 7 for a night.
Because there's one thing they could do as well, and correct me if I'm wrong. So, and sorry, I shouldn't get ahead. Do you want to talk about Kane quickly? Because that's what I want to talk about.
We can.
All I'm going to say is, if they wanted to, they could just put Kane on LTIR for like a day, and like retroactively, whatever, and then just take him off. They'll lose a couple of bucks, obviously, from the salary cap, but you would also have $5 million when you eventually put him on anyway.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if you went into LTIR for like 2 weeks. How does it affect your cap calculation?
Yeah, I don't know. So we'll find out.
Well, we did get a DM from Original Posar the other day.
We did.
So he started it by saying, and this is a great compliment to me, being a math guy. He said, Ty, you pretty much nailed the cap structuring info on yesterday's show. I'm assuming the rest of this DM is just him continuing to go on about how right I was.
I actually turned it off after I heard that.
Yeah, I read that sentence and I was like, good, I nailed it. Probably don't need to continue on with this thing. But he did say, I will note one important caveat. Having approximately $4.4 million to use at the deadline without Kane and LTIR presumes 13 forwards on the roster, including Kane, and no other changes. He adds that's not really feasible, right? I mean, they don't have room for any extra forward unless they take the annual cap to under $200K. Yes, they can do things like replace Perry with Lavoie, Ryan with Philp or Peterson, or Hamblin, but premise is the 13th forward is Evander Kane. If someone gets hurt, they'll need to recall, and that will reduce the accrual they have for the forward, he then said, or they go on LTIR for a month, which will stop until they're out. So,
right.
Again, that calculation of how much they can accrue, it's going to be a balance throughout the year because you don't want to go a week of going 11 and 7 just in the name of trying to accrue a little bit more cap space. You do need to focus on, winning hockey games in the moments and things like that. But the big points from there are, one, I pretty much nailed the cap structuring info on yesterday's show. That is significant. And the other thing is that, there's a chance they do have to bounce in and out of LTIR based on how other guys get hurt because, and this is just to maybe simplify it, again, they have $900,000 in cap space, $945,000 in cap space with 13 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goalies. But Kane is among those 13 forwards. So if they wanted to keep an extra guy, a Hamblin, a Peterson, whoever it may be, that's going to come out of that $945,000. If you don't do that, then you're running exactly 12 forwards. And if a Skinner, Arvidsson, whoever gets hurt for, let's say, 3 games, they're going to miss a week. So it's not long enough where they need to go into LTIR, but they're going to be out of the lineup. You then need to recall someone, and that comes into the 945. So again, there's some calculations here.
Yeah.
They are still cap strapped, even if they're not exactly like wincing right now. It's tight, but it's not that tight.
I think I'm picking up where you're laying down.
Yes.
They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. The Evander Kane thing. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Elliot Freeman said, teeing you up.
Oh, you're teeing me up to say, I thought maybe you were going to throw on the host chair.
Here we go.
Hosting. Okay, so the Oilers put this out the other day. Oilers forward Evander Kane underwent successful abdominal surgery last Friday. Recovery from the procedure is expected to take a minimum of 5 to 6 months. His rehab will take place in Edmonton under the supervision of the club's medical staff. For the Oilers, it's expected to be a minimum of 5 months. Elliot Friedman came out with a report, and I believe this was on 32 Thoughts, where he said it is not expected that Kane will miss the entire regular season. Okay. I will never doubt an insider.
Okay.
Friedman is plugged in.
Totally.
I also do think there might be a reason for the Oilers to be sending out some smoke signals going, oh, no, he's playing. Trust us. He's playing. Yeah. It's 5 months. Do the math. What's 5 months? End of October, end of November, end of December, end of January, end of February. Even if it takes 6, it's end of March. He'll be good. He's playing regular season games. We're not skirting the LTIR system.
No. He's not even going on LTIR.
Yeah.
He'll be fine.
There are reasons to send that out if you're in the Oilers organization. Be like, no, come on. Us cheating?
March 8th. Oh, setback.
Yeah,
he's out till April 20th.
And I do know, like, Gregor had the point the other day of, do you really want a guy just jumping into the playoff roster?
Oh, yeah. Actually, the more than anything. I totally cool with that.
You can, in the last week of the regular season or 2 weeks, you can send Kane down to it for a conditioning stint.
100%. Also, Philip Broberg jumped into the lineup last year and was arguably the third best defenseman.
That's an amazing point. Philip Broberg didn't play hockey for like a month and then played like however many minutes a night.
Got himself a huge ticket.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, yeah, whatever. The conditioning stint is actually a really good part of it.
Yeah, it is.
So that'd be nice.
So again, JR asks, are we going to pull a Mark Stone? I think it is probably like 50-50. I don't think it is set in stone, no pun intended. But again, this just goes back to the whole point, and I've made this 100 times. It is good that Stan Bowman went about this the way he did because they have flexibility. Yeah. If they would have kept Cody Ceci, or if they would have matched one of Holloway or Broberg, you would have been in LTIR from the start of the year. You would have had no room to acquire someone at the deadline. And if Kane came back in February, you would have been making a panic trade to try to get cap compliant.
Yes.
Now they can do whatever.
I think
they have a bunch of options, which is nice.
A layer of this. So obviously the famous ones are Kucherov and Stone for the LTIR. One part about this that is very different to me is Kane is not the Oilers' best player.
No.
Stone and Kucherov, and I know those guys won the Stanley Cups as well, but even this past season, like Stone did it, and he was their best player in Vegas, scraped into the playoffs. Yep. Like, it was likely they were going to get it. The odds were in their favor, but then you had to go play the 1 seed in Dallas, who were a very good team last year. We all saw it. I just don't think the Oilers are in that spot at all. They have, this isn't Draisaitl, this is McDavid, Bouchard, whoever. Like,
Kane would be coming back to play third line minutes.
Yeah, top 6, like middle 6 minutes.
And,
you know, I think I love Kane. Like, I've defended him on the show.
Yep.
I think he's valuable. I agree with what you're saying. Like, when he's in his mode and he's going, he's got a lot to give.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw it last year. Like, this guy is legit hurt. He was bad. He didn't even play in the Stanley Cup final, or barely. What did he play? Maybe the first 2 games, whatever it was. He missed time. And I think the Oilers could have won if Kane was in the lineup and healthy. Granted, a lot of players were healthy as well, but like even half of him.
And the idea of like, do you really want Evander Kane coming into the playoffs, having only played a couple of conditioning games in Bakersfield? I understand that that's not totally ideal, but if the trade-off is, would you rather have Kane play 2 weeks of hockey at the end of the regular season when those games might actually be pretty meaningless, sort of like they were this last season and sort of like they were the year before that, versus being able to, I mean, let's play around with some names, right? Like, what if Seattle is sitting there and they're going, all right, we're out of the mix. We're willing to trade Yanni Gord. And teams are going, whoa, we don't want to touch that $5 million cap hit. And the Oilers, because they maybe know that Evander Kane can go on LTIR, go, oh, hey, you're going to let us acquire Yanni Gord for a 4th round pick? Maybe I'm just like walking down a hypothetical. Maybe he's not having a great year. You're the Oilers. You go, man, that's a nice scrappy 4C piece we could add. All we have to do is shuffle Kane to LTIR. Seattle's going to give him to us for a 4th round pick.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yes, I'll do that deal. Also, the idea of Yanni Gord being a bottom 6 ad is sudden. I just read his name for the first time. That sounds very enticing to me.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a third line that was Kane, Gord, and like Connor Brown?
Probably hate it.
Or a 4th line that's Gord, Brown, Janmark?
cool. Yeah, that's
And then you have Henrique, Kane, and whoever.
yeah. That when I say I would hate it, I mean those guys should just get under your skin, don't they?
Yeah, like
Brown, not so much.
Again.
But either way. But like, another part of it too, of like diving into the playoffs. You think about the run the Oilers went on last year.
yeah,
There was different guys every round that stepped up. Round 1, Draisaitl dominated the LA Kings. Round 2, Calvin Pickett at his moment. Evan Bouchard scored 2 game-winning goals. Round 3 against Dallas, that's when you saw a bit of the emergence of the penalty kill with Yaremchuk and Brown. And the finals, obviously, like McDavid kind of starts to take it over. It's like, yes, I understand the idea of like, can't just throw guys in, but like you need everyone going, but you don't need everyone going at once.
yeah. All right. We totally glossed over the Sherwood Ford Giant question, but shout out to our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant. We won't get to it yet. We might get to it later in the show because I actually want to get to the Star Mechanical guest line. Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You can check them out online at starmechanical.ca. They've been in the game and killing it for 20 years, whether it's residential, commercial, or 24/7 emergency service. Star Mechanical can help you out. Personal update. It's now been a week without Red from Star Mechanical living across the street from me.
Whoa,
and
why?
he moved.
You did not tell us.
I thought I did. Yeah, when he was moving, remember he gave me a propane tank, and then he gave me
Maybe that was one of my days off.
he gave me a portable AC unit.
I don't recall.
Oh,
That very well could have been.
Yeah, I think it was.
'cause you were talking to me. Yeah.
He blessed me with a bunch of gifts as he left. But now I look out across the street. I don't get excited when the neighbors come home because I know I can't go outside and talk hockey with Red from Star Mechanical. Yeah, really upsetting actually. Anyways, let's move on from that before I start weeping on the air. Shout out to Star Mechanical. You know what'll cheer me up? A chat with our friend DJ Bean from What Chaos. DJ from the
Hey,
studio,
boys.
hair all done nicely and the mustache. Let's go. DJ.
Yeah. We're back. Just knocked out our Oilers preview on What Chaos, which is why there's a bunch of Oilers stuff behind me. But there's also a bunch of Oilers stuff behind me because there's usually a bunch of Oilers stuff behind me. Love them so much. Love you guys so much. How are you?
We are great, and we will talk about the Oilers and do all of that fun stuff. You posted this electric photo the other day. What's the story here? Why are you on a boat? Where are you? What's going on?
Who, me? Oh, I love going out with you guys. It's such a celebration of all the things I like, which is the Oilers and my vanity. I was on a boat yesterday, and I'd said on a very recent, like this week episode of What Chaos to Pete, that we had not dressed this summer the way that we wanted to. We had discussed doing a lot of hockey jerseys and shorts, but the weather was never totally right. And I said, I've specifically wanted to wear this Oilers sweatshirt that I got during the Cup final in Edmonton. I've wanted to wear it when I go sailing, but the weather has not been right. And then that day, friend who I go sailing with happened to text and be like, want to go tomorrow? It's going to be kind of chilly, though. What do you think I did? I dusted off my best Oilers sweatshirt, went on there. My friend Nicole took a little candid there. I'd gotten a haircut, so I had like the bad hair situation going on. It was blowing around. Hardest picture of me that's ever existed. I usually look so bad, but I love it.
Oh, do you ever go skiing? Like, can you
No.
ski? No.
I'm what the kids would call a puss when I was a younger man. I never did any of those extreme. Hockey was all I would do, really.
So you just mentioned the way you wanted to dress with hockey jerseys and shorts, and I've always wanted to do this because I saw someone do it once. Skiing or snowboarding in a hockey jersey.
That's a good look.
I saw someone do it, and credit to him, it was clearly a full outfit. Mullet with a retro Penguins Yager jersey. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And
on a ski hill? That's legit.
it just came right into my head then.
I think that Pete, Sean, and I should do kind of like What Chaos group outings and like team building exercises. But everything that we do, it has to be in wearing our hockey jerseys. So skiing, hockey jerseys, group movie trip, hockey jerseys, swimming, hockey jerseys. We have so many jerseys here that might as well.
Yeah, you got plenty to spare.
So you spent the summer on a sailboat? What else did you get up to?
Honestly, I think that's kind of the crux of it. I don't think I had the most. I rollerbladed a lot, and then I started trying to lift weights. So then I stopped rollerblading because lifting weights makes you sore. So I've just gained more weight, and now I'm in the worst shape of my life as a result because I'm not rollerblading as much. But really, the last like month and a half has just been like, all right, start stuff for this coming season. Let's go. Let's drop the puck, as the kids say.
We are big fans of What Chaos. You guys did a couple of interviews that you dropped throughout the summer. If you could recommend one interview for the people watching this show to go check out from your summer series, what would it be?
Ooh, boys, probably Jacob Lauko. Jacob Lauko was a lot of fun. Oh, I mean, Sean Monahan was a very good conversation, but it was unbelievably tragic for a million reasons. But that, like 2 days before Johnny Gaudreau died, so that was a crazy week. Like talking to Monahan about, like joking with him about like, hey, no matter what you say, we're all just gonna think you went to Columbus to play with Johnny. And he was like no, yeah, kind of, and talking that was obviously tough, but that was a very good conversation. Also, Quentin Byfield. What's that?
Cody Ceci interview? People are saying it in the chat.
Oh shoot, yeah, Cody's. Oh, apologies to Jacob Lauko. Cody Ceci #1 because it was Cody and Hugo Ceci, and my goal for this podcast for kind of a while was to be able to put out a graphic that said tomorrow on What Chaos, Cody and Hugo Ceci. And he had Hugo with him. We talked to Hugo. He's the best. And we just did our Oilers preview. And I like Ty Emberson so much that I'm like, is there something that we don't know about here that the Sharks would get rid of this guy when they are clearly in a rebuild? And I think that my answer ended up being like, you know what? Cody Ceci is like a guy that you want in that environment. They signed Tyler Toffoli. They got veterans. And if there's one thing that you could say for Cody Ceci, it's that his teammates absolutely love him. So love Cody Ceci. Can't wait to see him when the Sharks are in Boston. He's the best.
It will be interesting to see where Ceci goes. Because you said and Boston.
What?
Right?
Oh, I meant when the Sharks are playing in Boston.
Oh, I thought you meant like they acquire him at the deadline.
Oh my God. Don Sweeney, if you are ready to take a break from screaming about podcasts, trade for Cody Ceci. That would be the best.
You just did your Oilers preview, like you said. What are your general vibes? So, like, I have like an optimistic part of my brain and a pessimistic side. And there's one part of me that goes, you know what? We could have a very pissed off Oilers team who wants to show the entire NHL this year that they are the big dogs. They are the Stanley Cup favorites. There's another side of me that thinks it's obviously not a Stanley Cup hangover because they obviously didn't win, but is there going to be a little bit of, okay, it's just the regular season. Get us through this, get us to the playoffs. Could we have stretches where they maybe look disinterested? Where do you come out on the vibe of the Oilers and how they'll come out of the gates this season?
I'm also interested in how they start, but even if they do have bad stretches, it's a Chris Knobloch team. If they have a bad stretch, they're going to follow it up with a 40-game win streak, and it'll be the most ridiculous thing we've ever seen. So maybe that's just kind of what they are, and maybe that's what they're prone to. I think that you make a good point that going back to from when Chris Knobloch took over, it was just such a push and push. But maybe the summer was just a little catch your breath from that, and then it continues, and maybe they go all the way through, because even as we were sorting out the final standings of the Pacific Division, they're so much better, at least on paper, than the other teams in their division. That, like, just how much do they win it by? Is there a scenario in which they don't finish first or second in the Pacific? They're just so much better than everybody. But it's all going to be about what happens once they get to the postseason, and whether the Stars end up having more of a last gasp than they did last year, because I was kind of surprised by how easy the Stars went down, even though that series was by no means an easy series. Maybe the road ends up being a little more challenging for them this year, though. I think, though, that ultimately they should be the Stanley Cup favorite. But what I'll say is I don't remember an obvious, clear-cut Stanley Cup favorite that did at least have spots on the roster in which you could poke holes if you wanted to, specifically the third pairing, which I think both of those jobs should be up for grabs. And I've got the Stu Skinner jersey behind me. No bigger Stu fan than me, but a player who is prone to when he's off, he's really off. But even then, Calvin Pickard is such a solid backup that like even if that becomes a problem, I don't see it really becoming a problem. But there's at least 2 areas on the roster where they're imperfect.
I do think that's fair too. It is not a roster that you look at, and I mean the top 6 is loaded.
Even
but
the bottom 6.
The bottom 6 does have some question marks. The obviously blue line has question marks. The goaltending, I mean, they've fought through goaltending inconsistencies, so I do brush that off a bit. As like, they've been through it before. Why will they not get through it again? But you are right. It's like if you were to ask 100 people on the street or of any NHL city who's the Stanley Cup favorite, I think probably 70 to 85 of them tell you the Oilers, but you can sit there and, like you said, poke holes in the roster. Okay, we're going to get back to the Oilers stuff because Liam has a game he wants to play. But it's popping up in the chat, and I know you come on here to talk Oilers, but can you just give us a bit of like what are the Bruins doing with Jeremy Swayman? Like, this seems insane that a team is not paying their number 1 goalie.
Yeah, I'm dicking around with him, and my thing on Swayman and the Bruins has been that this has been a borderline career-long experience that has existed for Jeremy Swayman with the Bruins, where for whatever reason, despite what he's proven to them, they've never been super comfortable just giving him the keys. And it existed last summer, obviously, when they went to arbitration, and Swayman took that very personally, was not a happy camper. That's why he's playing, that's why he's kind of playing hardball with them this summer. But going back to when Tuukka Rask was hurt in the 2021 playoffs against the Islanders, they didn't go to Swayman. They stuck with Rask, who was hurt, which I would have done that because I just believed in Tuukka Rask and Swayman was a bit unproven, whatever. At the end of that season, Rask is getting surgery and out of a contract. They signed Linus Ullmark, which was like, it's kind of weird. Okay, whatever. They're just going to go with the tandem of Ullmark and Swayman. Once Rask gets healthy, they send Swayman down and they sign Tuukka Rask. Like, there's been so many points along his career where you'd think it's just like logical. All right, give him the keys. He's the guy. And I'm sorry. At some of those points, it's fair for them to not be super comfortable just completely letting him run the show. But with what he did in the postseason, like, he's not getting carried away by asking for $8 million if that's what he's asking for, or for wanting like an 8 times $8.5 million thing. So that's confusing to me. And the other one is, if say you don't like his number and you want to give him an 8-year deal and you don't like the number he's asking for, just give him the number he's asking for 7 years or for 6 years, or just remove years until you can come to an agreement. It seems like a logical thing to work out. And I know Swayman loves Boston and he loves the Bruins. So I think the outside perception and the perception here is that this is more on the Bruins and their handling of it than Swayman drawing a line in the sand and being one tough customer. I hate that the term lockout has been thrown around, or holdout has been thrown around with this, because he's not holding out. The sides have not come to an agreement. So that's both sides' fault. And I think it's more the fault of the Bruins than it is Swayman's.
If I could play devil's advocate and maybe be more on the Bruins side, he's played a career high 44 games in a season. There maybe is a part of me that if I'm sitting as Don Sweeney, I'm going, whoa. You've never shown us you can play 55 games. So why do I have to pay you like a goalie who's played 55 games and been still at that kind of top 10 level?
Yeah, and he is still at the age where there's projection baked into these 8-year deals, and you sign him at a number that maybe will make people flinch for the first couple of years, and then it comes down the more games that he plays. But it's a good point by you. However, the postseason, and I know the postseason was only 13 games, the postseason showed that he can start and he didn't play all 13 games, but he ended up taking over midway through that first round against the Maple Leafs. He showed that he can start every night and be dominant every night, which he was.
All right. Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated. How many things do you got for us? We'll do this, then we'll let you go, DJ.
I think we have 5.
5. Okay. Liam throws a topic. It's very self-explanatory. DJ, you tell us if it's overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated. Liam.
Okay. Early season results. And this can go for a variety of sports. Right now, we're seeing it in the NFL where the San Francisco 49ers are 1-2.
Bengals are 0-3.
Bengals are on 3. Vikings 3-0. early season results. DJ, we'll let you go first. Overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated?
I mean, the Oilers fan in me wants to say early season results famously do not matter. However, I'm looking at my dear friend Sean DePaz, who is a Buffalo Bills fan, and actually had to jump off the Oilers bandwagon because Chris Knobloch had to shoot his mouth off against the Buffalo Sabres or the Buffalo Bills. Thanks a lot. Ruined my workday with that line, even though it was a kind of maybe interesting line, whatever. For the sake of Sean and the Buffalo Bills, I will say early season results dictate what is to come. Super Bowl or bust.
I will also. I'm actually going to go underrated. Like people love to point to the now they'll point to the Oilers of last year, or they'll point to the St. Louis Blues of 2017. But like there are 2 examples of that in the last 7 years of teams turning it around. Like
And they both went to the final.
but for
Also,
every
the St. Louis Blues of 2019 should not have won the Stanley Cup. That's like the most inexplicable cup win I've ever seen in my life. So that's an outlier for a bajillion reasons.
for every Oilers and Blues season you can find, 2 of them, you can find a Buffalo, an Ottawa, all of these other teams in just the NHL, never mind going to other sports. Look at the Toronto Blue Jays this year. I love my Blue Jays. They started terribly and it was off the rails and never back on. For every team that does turn it around, you can find probably 10 that never did get it back on track. Look at the Canucks last year. They started red hot and then just basically coasted to a division title.
I'm going to say perfectly rated.
All right.
Because I think as the year goes on, it just balances itself out.
That's fair too.
Okay, Aaron, moving on. Reading. Is reading overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated?
When he sent me this earlier, I couldn't stop laughing.
So to give some context to this, I'm currently in the process of moving house, and I got a ton of books that basically just have dust on them. So I think, should I start reading more? Tyler?
Yeah. I'll say underrated, but I'm not going to start reading books anytime soon. I probably should. It'd probably help me sleep better at night versus sitting on my phone.
Yeah.
I'll say underrated.
I'll just say, like, what do humans do? They breathe. We are here to breathe and walk around and speak, and we do those things almost constantly. Books spend 99.99999% of their lives not being read.
Yeah.
So in that respect, reading is overrated. I enjoy reading. I will, though, plug a What Chaos interview with the great Kirill Marchenko of the Columbus Blue Jackets, who does not like music and definitely doesn't like reading. Thinks it's for losers. Pete, you want to say?
I think that reading is awesome. The problem with reading, I've gotten into reading recently. The problem with reading is that nobody fucking cares about whatever book that you're reading, so you can't talk about it. Like, you can talk about a TV show because there's like a related experience there, but you talk about a book, nobody can visualize or fucking picture anything. You can't talk about a book that you're reading. So that's my take on that.
That's a great take.
That's a great point. So I read Scottie Pippen's book right after The Last Dance came out, and I wanted to tell people about it, but nobody else had read it. So for that reason, I'm with Pete. Overrated. I was underrated until that moment. Crazy.
I'll say though, I don't read fiction. I only read nonfiction. And for years, I've been trying to be like, I'm gonna do it. This is gonna be the summer or whatever. I'm gonna read fiction, but I just keep hammering biographies about musicians, and I can talk about those to people because normally what I'm talking about anyway is like fun music facts or whatever. So I don't have to say, hey, I'm reading this book and blah, blah. I'll just be like, hey, did you know that whatever music thing, and people can choose to care or not care.
What Chaos Book Club coming next season?
What Chaos Book Club would
Like
but then people would be like, you got to read the game, and we're not going to read the game.
Yeah. Fair. All right. Number 3, Liam.
A good preseason performance.
I'll just step right in. Wildly overrated.
Overrated.
Always overrated. End of my answer. DJ?
Oh, it's overrated, but especially in Boston where they're trying to figure out who the wings are going to be to replace Jake DeBrusk. There's been a lot of like, well, turns out that guy's not ready after like one preseason game where they don't score a goal. I'll say that a good preseason performance is overrated, but I will say overrating preseason performances is underrated because it's one of my favorite things of the preseason, which is people getting carried away by preseason performances.
Decent point.
I think the fact the picture is Tyrati, it just shows that this is overrated.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 4,
Troy Stetcher.
just as a dude.
Just not as a person. Here's a fact. I saw Troy Stetcher the other day
Where?
at the Sherwood Park Arena because he used to play for Penticton.
Mm.
Penticton in town, so he came out to support his team, which was quite cool to see. I'm just going to say Troy Stetcher is overrated because we're just throwing him in as our on top 4 defenseman.
I think
he
he
didn't even play last season.
I think he's underrated because you can actually look back to stretches of his career, no pun intended, where he's handled that role perfectly fine. So I'll say I think he's underrated, and this goes back. It was going to be our Sherwood Ford Giant question of out of 10, how do you rank this, or how confident are you in the Oilers blue line? I think people are maybe a little bit more down on this blue line than they should, and I think Stetcher can give you everyday NHL minutes. DJ.
I have to say underrated because we did our Oilers preview and did not bring up Troy Stetcher. And I personally don't feel bad about doing our Oilers preview without bringing up Troy Stetcher. So I guess I'm forced to say underrated because clearly we have underrated him. But is that the conversation? They're like
top 4, yeah.
Wait, sorry. What did you say, Liam?
People think he's going to fit on the right side of the top 4.
He had
I think that's Emberson.
Game stretch with Darnell Nurse last year. So
yeah, so I think that's Emberson, but Stetcher is a candidate there. I think more third pair, but fuck, I don't know. I think that Emberson's going to be the guy that a month into the season, if he stays healthy, we're like, wow, what an absolute godsend. And now the second pair is stable. And I don't know what the health of Darnell Nurse has been the last couple of weeks, but if he levels off and at least is a solid second pairing player, then they're even more in business than we thought.
Aaron is the last one. I don't know what this is. Could be anything.
Final one I want to know. Overrated, underrated, fall season. Everybody says they love the fall, but like Ty, you look outside, the leaves are everywhere. It's getting colder. It's sadder. I don't know if it's because my summer was cut short this year. Shout out the Oil. They went far. I'm indifferent. I think it's overrated.
DJ?
Aaron, I will say that it is not overrated for me to wish you a belated happy birthday, correct?
Hey.
Happy belated birthday, my friend. Fall's great. I love fall. Fall better than spring. I don't know if that's some sort of hot take. Fall is like, I love the fashion. I love especially in Boston, I love the fall weather. It's very nice. The only way in which fall kind of stinks is if you happen to be doing any sort of outdoor exercising where you're running or you're rollerblading or whatever there. Once it starts to get cold, that's a real bummer. But other than that, give me the fall. Hockey's back. Basketball's back. Everything smells good. Yeah, fall. Love it. Underrated. Even if it is rated a 10 out of 10, I'll still say it's a little underrated.
I'll say perfectly rated just because there are, I do think there are people who do overrate it, but like Tyler Mulick in our chat just said, it's the worst of the 4 seasons. That's wildly incorrect. You're getting all your sports back, which is great. NFL's back, hockey's exciting, baseball's good. And also there are activities that you can do. Sitting around a fire is better in the fall than it is in the summer.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree. Halloween's in the fall.
Where are you going on this one?
I'm going to go perfectly rated because I kind of come on both sides of it. On one side, it's great that we can have sports back. Like I prefer playing indoor sports and outdoor sports, so it kind of works for me. But as the farmer I am,
Liam is a farmer.
I have to pick a lot of vegetables when the fall starts coming around. I got to do some potato picking next
It's
week.
harvest for you.
It's harvest season, baby. I ain't got time for that.
You harvest.
I'm an avid. I got green fingertips, you know.
See, I don't harvest. I don't. My familiarity with harvest is, I would say, very low. I don't harvest at all.
I had to put the heater on in my greenhouse the other day to keep my cucumbers and tomatoes. All right.
If somebody texts you while you're harvesting, are you just like, "Hey, sorry, can I get back? Sorry, I'm harvesting right now."
What'd you grow this year?
There's no service at the farm, so no problem. This year I grew in my house. I grew lettuce, basil, tomatoes, and cucumbers. And at the farm, I grew potatoes, corn, beets, peas, and carrots. Yeah, no big deal.
You're an interesting man.
I like this. Maybe I'll harvest. I don't know if I can harvest right now, but I think by the time I started to harvest, it would become winter, and then I just fuck my whole harvest. So at some point, we'll talk offline about harvesting, Liam.
Come on by.
DJ Bean from What Chaos. We'll throw the link to their YouTube in the description of today's episode. You should absolutely make it a part of your hockey routine this season, and we absolutely love having you on the show. DJ, appreciate it.
Please do. We've got some cool stuff coming too that we'll say has a bit of Edmonton flavor that
Whoa.
you and yours will absolutely love. So stay tuned for that. We love you. We love all the Oilers Nation folks. Go Oilers, etc., Oil Man.
There you go.
Wow.
DJ Bean from What Chaos. Find him on Twitter at DJ Bean. And of course, go watch What Chaos. I love having him on to shoot the shit. We'll make that obviously not weekly because he's a busy man, but we'll have him on throughout the season.
Totally.
Once, twice a month. More DJ, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And also, that studio is so sick.
Yeah.
We are in a broom closet. And
Don't tell people.
we are in an 8x8 room. And if an Oilers logo reflects off something, we get sued. DJ did that whole interview hugging a Hunter the Lynx pillow.
I'd take off all the sponsors.
Immediately.
Also, they don't realize how close I am to you guys, like inside this studio right now.
Yeah.
Aaron's so close that sometimes when he types on the keyboard, it distracts me.
Yeah.
It's a loud keyboard.
As soon as DJ popped up and I saw him holding the Hunter thing, I'm like, well, now we can't make any sponsored clips from this segment, but we love having DJ on. He's a good man.
Get him on the YouTube.
All right, let's keep cruising along. Let's get into, we did start mechanical. Okay, let's do the short for giant question really quick because we touched on it there for a second, and I got a point that I want to make. Calling all car enthusiasts, take your vehicle to the next level with the Roush Performance upgrades. They're available at Sherwood Ford the Giant, and they offer an extensive selection of parts designed to unleash the full potential of your Mustang, F-Series, or any other Ford model, from superchargers, cold air intake, suspension kits, and more. Customize your ride at Sherwood Ford the Giant. Scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you feeling right now in this Oilers blue line, Liam?
10 being the most.
10 is the most.
Do you know what? I'm going to say 5 because I'm split down the middle because there's 3.5 guys who I trust. And then I think there's 2.5 guys, 2 of them being, I'm not really sure, in Stetcher and Emberson, assuming they're the top 6. And then Nurse, I want to see Nurse actually get better, but I think it's clear, like DJ said, this team needs to improve on that blue line at some point this season. I do think Stetcher and Emberson will be fine, ultimately, but my confidence in it is, I think I would have been more confident knowing that CC was still on the team to have that bit of buffer. You know what I mean? What are you?
I don't remember if I made this or if I had this take on this show or if I did it on ONR last week, but like I do think there is a part of us we're misremembering Cody Ceci and Vinny Desharnais a bit. I think they're a lot closer to replacement level than we think. And just because the team was good does not mean they were great. Or the team was great doesn't mean they were great. They were fine. Mm-hmm. But if all we're looking for out of their replacements is fine, because again, they went to a conference final with Barry and Nurse as the top pairing. They went to a cup final with Cody Ceci and Vinny Desharnais, one of them playing every single night in the playoffs. For long stretches, both of them playing every single night. That doesn't make them good. Being on a good team doesn't make you good. And I just think Emberson is fully capable of giving us at least, at minimum, what Cody Ceci did. And I actually think Ty Emberson's going to be a lot better, and he's going to have he's going to have far fewer mistakes in his game than Cody Ceci did. I think we're going to have a lot less moments where we're going, what are you doing when Ty Emberson's on the ice? And Stetcher, I do ultimately think Stetcher ends up with Nurse and Emberson ends up with Kulak. And I think Stetcher, obviously better puck mover than Vinny. And we talked about how Nurse plays better with better puck movers. So I think people are misremembering the pieces who are gone. And for that reason, I think I'm up to like, I don't want to, 8 makes it sound like I'm way too happy, and I'm not happy. They do need to upgrade it at one point, but 6 is like way too cautious. I'm going to go super decimal here, 7.75.
I got a decimal for you as well.
Okay, what's yours?
Mine's 6.6 out of 10 because I'm confident in 4 out of the 6 defensemen. Lowest terms, 2-3. There you go. 66.6 repeating. I just don't know. I think if you talk Stetcher and Nurse together, that scares me because that is chaotic as hell. It will be very fun to watch, but I get a little nervous about that. I trust Kulak with my unborn child with anything he needs to do. Nurse, whatever, but Kulak's my confidence makes up for that. And Ekholm and Bush is one of the best duos in the NHL. However, Ty Emerson is sick on Shell Boys. You got to start playing with him because he's a big body and he lays hits. If he can do that, I'm going to be at an 8, but 6.6.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Emerson will be fine, but I still think he's a question mark. We don't truly know what it is.
Yeah. All right, let's get to a couple of the takes. A lot of you. Okay, Nish said 6 out of 10. ML said 6.5. 5 from Stealth. 6.5 from Paul. 6.5 from Not OE. Bill said 9. Mulick said 7. Sergeant Battle said 7 as well. So I do think, again, no one in this chat as Oilers fans are going to be the ones that are freaking out. I think the outside noise about this blue line is maybe a little bit exaggerated.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually more worried about the bottom 6 and this defenseman.
Yeah.
I think the bottom 6 is not that good.
I like this one from Seabass. Eating minutes and quality doesn't necessarily go hand in hand. Like if you play an average of 22 minutes a night, but you're getting outscored 2-1 every single game, that's not good.
But I think CC, what you said about Vinny was good. Like I do think that's a guy, and he got paid like that too, right? Like got paid just be a guy you can plug in and out.
As soon as I saw that contract, I had no interest in it, really.
No, I wasn't too concerned about him even coming back anyway. He's a guy they rotated out of their playoff lineup for 2 years in a row. With CC, I understand why he's gone. He was overpaid for what you needed him to do, but I do think him and Kulak were perfectly fine as that third pairing defenseman. And I think Emerson can come in and do the same, but I don't know what Ty Emerson's like. I've literally never paid attention to him playing.
Yeah. And again, like I do think CC was fine, but I also think I don't think the drop off is as significant. Yeah.
Either way, there was a hole in the top 4 for them, with or without CC, because CC wasn't going to play there. You hoped Broberg was going to do it. He's the biggest loss from the blue line.
There you go. That's our Sherwood Ford giant question. Mulick, I'm hoping for a healthy Nurse. Absolutely. I do think that is probably the biggest thing that could change this is if we get a bounce back from Darnell Nurse this year, this blue line looks a lot better than it did a year ago, regardless of who else is behind them. And the other thing too is always having, and again, we're now in the hypothetical of a Nurse bounce back, but always having one of Ekholm, Nurse, or Kulak on the ice is a luxury. Like that's 3 quality guys. Like it's not like the third pairing is 2 guys from Bakersfield, and every time they play for the 14 minutes they're on the ice, you're just like, cross your fingers, God, please don't be terrible. So yeah,
I just think of like you mentioned, the Oilers went to a Western Conference Finals with Barry and Nurse, whatever.
Yep.
I just think about that blue line they ran into in Colorado. And I don't think the Oilers are close to that, but like having guys like you said, like the Oilers get those 3 guys on the ice, like having Manson, Taves, McCarr, or Girardi, even what was that other tall guy, Graves?
Yeah.
Like those guys, like that blue line was really good. And I think the Oilers are closer to that than they were back then.
Yep. Colorado's blue line, Taves, McCarr, Gerard, Manson, Brandstrom, Shillington. That Shillington deal is going to look so good.
Yeah, that'll be.
He should fire his agent if he hasn't already, by the way. Okay, we got a couple more things to get to in the back a little bit of the show. I know we were going to do our over-under, but I feel like we should save that for Friday.
But I wrote it down. What if it changes?
Then you can change your answer. What do you mean? If the line
changes,
that's fine.
They haven't changed for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. We're going to save that Friday. Also, Friday, we're going to be joined by Preston Hodgkinson, who covers the Oilers. He's been at all the training. He's credentialed. He's PWHA, and he's in the city. So we're excited. I've never met him. I've spoken to him once, and it was to say, hey, man, do you want to come on the show? So we'll make a new friend, hopefully, on Friday.
Fingers crossed.
What's trending for our friends at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine? Still plenty to do in fall. They would say fall is underrated. You can get on an e-bike, go for a nice ride, maybe a nice cool afternoon ride out on the water. Why not? Why not? Everything you need from e-bikes to boat accessories. DJ was just on a boat too. He would love Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. Check him out right in the heart of Sherwood Park, right by Sherwood Ford the Giant. Here's what's trending. The video game Backyard Baseball is making a comeback.
What?
Have you ever played this?
What?
No.
Pablo Sanchez.
What?
Just for the record, I did not grow up in Canada, and baseball does not exist in England.
Decent counterpoint.
Fair point.
It's coming back in October for $10, and I'm turning this into a what's trending question. What's the first video game you loved as a kid?
Well, it's actually kind of funny. This is almost outside of like your big FIFA and stuff like that, which I would play all the time. I used to play this game called Stick Cricket, and it's probably pretty similar to this. Like you basically have a stick man and you play cricket on your thing, and you just have your little arrows, and that's how you shoot the ball.
Stick cricket.
Video games are way
And I
better
could
over here.
Play it on my phone, play on my dad's phone when we would pick up my mum from work. So that was my favorite game.
Stick cricket.
Yeah.
Not bad.
What's yours?
For me, and this would have came out probably when I was between like the ages of 12 and 14. So like maybe not quite the first, but the one that I played more than anything was the Bigs for the Nintendo Wii. It was a baseball game, but like arcade style.
I had that one. Is that where you could go into like the zone and you'd for sure hit a dinger?
Yeah.
I love that game.
Oh,
Save him for the 9th inning and go
Yeah.
yard.
Oh, I played so much of the Bigs, like the Road to the Show thing, the Legend mode.
The Bigs was better than the show.
Oh
Better
yeah,
than
it
the
was. And like I'm just thinking back to like the summer days when I was 13, and it was the Wii, right? So like you're standing up and like swinging and pitching, and I would just be working up a sweat, and I'd play for like 4 hours. I loved that game.
I broke a beam in my basement that was like above my
Really?
head because I was playing tennis. I
You
was getting into my
smoked it?
serve and casualties.
Also, Michael just said it. The OG 3-on-3 NHL arcade game.
Yeah.
I loved that game. That was a fun one too, with the big heads. Oh,
They brought something similar back a couple of NHLs ago. Maybe like NHL
it wasn't as good.
but it was. But
it's the big
better.
heads and the
Yeah.
3-on-3s and the arcade.
Yeah.
That makes me think of like NBA Jam as well. That used to be
Yeah.
one for me. My
yeah.
go-to game, Zelda Ocarina of Time. I don't know if you guys ever played that. Ty,
played
definitely
those
not you.
No.
People in the chat, they definitely played Zelda. I think it came out in like 98. So I was like probably like 5, 6, 2000 around there when I started comprehending video games.
Yeah.
Changed the game.
I do actually, now that you brought up that new one, me and my buddies had a solid run. I think it was in the NHL game like 2 years ago, where we would just get some drinks and play that 3-on-3 game
Yeah,
where
it
you
was
gotta
fun.
work through all the teams and get 3 stars.
Yeah, that was good.
It's good if it's like you and a couple buddies and you're just all controlling your own guy.
Play.
Yeah, it's fun.
Ooh, honorable mention GoldenEye 007.
That's a good one.
I don't know. I used to play Pokemon Sapphire on my Game Boy Advance.
Ooh, that's a good
play
one.
that?
That's a good one. A lot of comments. I like that you guys get into your own kind of conversations in the chat too. Good stuff.
Pong. How old are you?
That's fair. Gretzky's 64 game was my go-to as a kid. Sega hockey was always lit. NHL Hits was a blast. Fallout 3. That's a new one, but Mew looks about our age, so that makes sense. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, Fallout 3 came out probably right around.
What else did you grab for what's trending? Oh, Minwoo Lee, the President's Cup, is coming up this weekend.
I thought it was done.
No, it's this weekend. That's why James can't join us till next week.
President's Cup.
President's Cup golf. It's in Montreal. It's like the Team North or Team World
James
versus Team
Duffy.
USA.
I was
Yeah.
like, who's James?
James Duffy. Minwoo Lee, who I like on the tour, tweeted, Poutine is unreal. # Canada. So it's nice that this tournament's in Canada.
Excited.
It'll be a good golf
Yeah.
weekend.
This
Also, Poutine is unreal.
who's on the roster? Let me have a look.
All right. While you do that, I'm going to tell a story from Major League Baseball that is just terrible. The Pittsburgh Pirates should be one of the premier organizations in baseball. The Steelers are a great NFL organization. The Penguins are now a great NHL organization. The ownership of the Pittsburgh Pirates are a disgrace. And I have beef with them because today they cut Rowdy Tellez with 6 days remaining in the regular season. He was at 421 plate appearances. He needed 4 more to cash a $200,000 bonus. The Pirates DFA'd him with less than a week remaining in the regular season. They are a miserable organization. They have miserable ownership who should absolutely be forced to sell the team. If Rob Manfred had balls, he would probably be forcing 3 to 5 owners in Major League Baseball to sell their teams, but he doesn't. It is terrible. Pittsburgh Pirates, they're going to get my cold performer on Friday's edition of Owen Radio, but terrible. And Rowdy Tellez is a great guy. So anyways,
This
Pittsburgh
is
Pirates.
crazy. This is such a bad look for future free agents or anyone to sign with you.
They were very clearly doing this no matter what.
Like it's,
It's terrible. Again, they just want to save the $200,000. Like, don't own a
if you're owning a baseball team, $200K should not be that big of a deal.
don't own a baseball team if you're going to do stuff like this. Like, no one is forcing you to own the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I hate there's this portion of sports owners who are just doing it, and it's a bigger problem in baseball than in other sports where cap floors exist and things like that. But they're doing it because they're just holding on to the franchise value. They have no interest in winning. They have no interest in creating an interesting product or doing anything for their fans. They're just holding on to it because the franchise is gonna be worth probably 4x what it is now in 50 years. And they're just holding on to that. It's ridiculous. So anyways, Pirates, you suck. That's what's trending for our friends at Sure Power Sports and Marine. Let's wrap up with the Bet365 other sports report. Download the app today and use the promo code OILYBONUS to get in on a huge range of markets. Whatever the sport, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app today. I cleaned up on Monday Night Football. I told you about a jump, but I 4x'd my money on all. I hit every parlay, and this is part of the reason why I like betting on Bet365. I had a same gamer. It was like $25 into $250, and I was missing 2 legs of it. Khalil Shakir needed 75 receiving yards. He had 72 at the half. Josh Allen needed 300 passing yards, and he had like 247 at the half. And I sat there, and my cash out was like 150. And I was like, okay, I could risk it, let it ride for the final 150. Khalil Shakir would need one more catch. Josh Allen would need to go for 300 yards. But I was like, they're up by so many. They're not going to play guys.